Get ready, Staten Island.
The Ferry Hawks host the Hagerstown Flying Boxcars. Tonight at 7 p.m., it's soccer night, and kids glow around the bases postgame. Saturday at 6:30, it's Broadway night with postgame fireworks and Broadway rave. Sunday at 1:30, it's Military Appreciation Day, and the kids run around the bases.
A great day out for the entire family. Kids run the bases after every Sunday home game. Want the best seats all season? Get more Ferry Hawks for only $63. Visit ferryhawks.com now to lock in your seats. This is Full Court Press with Sean Spicer.
Sean Spicer will be getting a new position.
A decorated veteran, a political strategist, and he knows Washington inside and out.
Just like Sean Spicer.
The Spicer era.
Sean Spicer.
The Full Court Press is on the air. Now, here's Sean Spicer.
Good Sunday morning. Welcome back to Full Court Press. I'm your host, Sean Spicer, here on WABC. We've got a lot to get to. I'm going to break down the primary results for this week and what they mean for Republicans holding the majority in both houses. This is critical to Trump's second term. I like to tell people all the time, if you saw the first movie, Trump 1.0, you realize if we lose one house, it's going to be a very tough slog. Impeachment, investigations. Hakeem Jeffries this week trying to make the case to his caucus. Hey guys, we need to stay focused on the affordability message in the caucus saying, yeah, not so much. we want to talk about how bad Trump is because that's what the base wants to. And the funny thing is Jeffries realizes that if they're talking about impeachment and investigations, well, that's not going to play too well. And he's right. But his members can't help themselves because that their base is dying. They don't want an agenda. They're not for anything. All they're for is against Donald Trump. Whatever he's for up, they're for down. He's for right, they're for left. There is nothing that makes sense to them. Nothing that is, and I tell people all the time, think about this. These guys shut down the Department of Homeland Security, FEMA, Secret Service, TSA, the Coast Guard for 76 days and virtually paid no price. None. Do you really think they care about anything right now except for pure and utter power? No. So I'm going to break down for you some of the results because I think this is important to understand the context of a lot of the noise that you hear from pundits on cable television in particular, who frankly, as I've told you guys before, if you listen to the show, probably have never been involved in a campaign. Maybe they voted. That's probably the extent of their political knowledge. But the math isn't mathing for Democrats. So, and then by the way, I've got the latest. I should have buried the lead on this. We've got John Rogers from Signal Polling. They always bring the heat when they come. They just got out of the field with a brand new national survey to give us the lay of the land on where things stand, the generic ballot, the head-to-heads, plus what is driving this and what we need to know. And I'm just going to give you a little tease, not to be a huge spoiler, but gas prices in Iran are key to this whole thing. So that's coming up in just a minute. But obviously the big news coming out of Tuesday night's primaries in 4 states was what happened in Maine. Graham Plattner officially became the nominee of the Democratic Party. Now, here's what I think is interesting, and the media downplayed this. He ran against, and they'll portray this like he ran against Janet Mills, the current 2-term governor. He didn't. She dropped out. Technically, she was on the ballot because when people say they suspend their campaigns, it means that they're still on the ballot. There's a lot of legwork. It takes a while to shut down a campaign. So even Eric Swalwell was on the California ballot. 64 people are on that ballot for governor. But Graham Plattner got 72% of the vote. So 28% of people, I mean, and this is what I try to remind people. Think about this. There were about 50,000 people in Maine that went out and voted for somebody other than Graham Plattner. I don't know about you. I don't have the kind of time in the day to say, I'm going to go waste 20, 25 minutes to vote for someone that isn't running. I mean, just that's the mentality. I'm going to go vote for Janet Mills. She dropped out of the race. Unless it's truly meant to be a protest vote, which I think it is. Because why else would you waste time from your day? You have work, you're doing something. I mean, heck, you're just doom scrolling. And you get up and you go, I'm going to go vote. 5-10 minutes to get there at the minimum. A few minutes in, you got to show your ID, even in Maine. Get out. You're going to go vote for 25 minutes. Waste 25 minutes of your day to vote for somebody who isn't running. And I say this because the media made it seem like such a big deal for Plattner, but 30% of the electorate in Maine, 50,000 people, went and voted for somebody that they knew couldn't win. Why would you do that unless you're sending a clear signal, I don't want this guy? Well, he won, and now he's trying to place this whole I'm a changed man, grace is inevitable. Let me play you a clip from his victory speeches, I guess they all call it. Take a listen.
Grace is not inevitable, but here in Maine, sometimes it feels like it is. And that is something I will never take for granted. It is a mighty gift, and one that I am committed to extending outwards.
This guy is so phony. He is a joke. He is literally dresses up like a working man. He's phony. He's full of crap. He's apparently all into this theme of redemption. Let me play for you a little bit more of him on election night.
Love and redemption. Redemption is not just some simple or easy destination. It's a journey. I've made mistakes in my life, mistakes that I regret, that I live with, that I continue to learn from. I'm still far from perfect. But every day I wake up and I try to be a little bit better and a little bit kinder than I was the day before. And if you give me the chance, I will be a senator for the people who cannot afford to buy a senator.
Oh, yay, Graham, yay. You know the thing about redemption, though? You have to be sorry. You ever hear that? You ever hear him say, I'm sorry for what I did? No. In fact, he denies it most of the time. When he talks about things, he says these are fake stories. If you're going to be redeemed, you have to have said, he loves to say, I've made mistakes, I've got some regrets. Okay, but are you sorry for what you did? Are you sorry for the tattoo? Are you sorry that you said that blacks are bad tippers? Are you sorry that you demeaned Purple Heart recipients that fought for America? Are you sorry that you went after Teddy Daniels for the firefight that he was in? Are you sorry that you said Chris Kyle, the lone survivor, was deserved what he got? Are you sorry that you said that women deserve their own sexual assault? Never. He doesn't say any of that. He's so full of crap, and he lies. He isn't an oyster farmer. Give his mommy some oysters. That doesn't make you an oyster farmer. Oh, I got a $200,000 VA loan to start my business. No, your daddy gave you a loan. Why do you have to lie about that stuff? And if you're going to lie about that stuff, what else are you going to lie about? See, this is the thing. He is 100% a phony. And mark my words, I told you about the math. As I've said before, Democrats need 4 seats to take over the Senate. There are 3 that they are defending, and there are 6 that Republicans are defending. They need to hold their own, and they need to win 4 of 6. One of those 6 is Maine. And more they're realizing the Democratic side that that's not one that they can do. His poll numbers are tanking. Tony Fabrizio, the president's pollster, was in the field, and he came out and he shows that his favorabilities on Plattner, that is, have gone up 20%. It's just a matter of time before Democrats realize that this guy is not somebody that they want. And President Trump made it very clear that he's got Susan Collins' back. Take a listen.
You mentioned the Senate race in Maine. Are you all in supporting Susan Collins? Does she have your full support and endorsement in her Senate
She does
re-election?
because she's a sane woman. She's not my best friend at all. These guys are. I get along with, but I have some. But she's a sane person. And she's a person that never missed a vote in many years. I mean, she's like had 10,000 votes. She had 10,000 votes. She never missed a vote. Unfortunately, because sometimes she voted against me. Look, she's a sane woman, and she's a respected person. Maybe a little different ideology than me, but this guy is a thug. He's a fake thug. He's a phony. I've made a lot of money picking out phonies. He's a real phony. He's a bad person. Yeah.
He's right. Bad person. He's a phony. And I'm glad he recognized that Susan Collins is not with him. She's the only Republican that can win Maine. I said it. It's right. It's true. She's the key to maintaining a majority. The Democrats know that if they can't win Maine, there's no path forward. There's none. The president's, I'm glad he's making it very clear that he's on board. She's not with them all the time. I love the fact how funny he was about it, by the way. That was great. But I will tell you, keep in mind one other thing about this. When you look at the people who went out to vote in Maine, there was a contested gubernatorial primary on both sides. There were 180,000 people, plus or minus, that voted on the Democratic side. There are 100,000 people that voted on the Republican side. I'm just saying this because the level of enthusiasm on the Dem side is a lot more. Now, there was a contested primary in Maine's 2nd congressional district. There was a contested, technically, they wanted to go out and vote for or against Plattner. But the reason I'm telling you all this is that, we have to remember we need to keep our folks motivated. That 2nd congressional district, by the way, is going to be another interesting one in Maine. That could be a pickup for us. Governor Paul LePage, former governor, 2-term governors, running for the 2nd congressional district of Maine. That will be a pickup for Republicans. It's an open seat, and they've got a runoff in Maine. So I think that's another one to keep an eye on. There was also an election primary in South Carolina. This one didn't get a lot of attention, but I'm just throwing this out for you. Multi-term Senator Lindsey Graham was up in this primary, and he only got 57%. He almost got forced to a runoff by a guy named Mark Lynch, who spent $5 million of his retirement funds. I mean, this would have been really embarrassing for Lindsey Graham, to be honest with you. Also, a gubernatorial race. I think it's safe to say whoever wins the Republican nomination will be the next governor of South Carolina. 2-term governor Henry McMaster's term limited out. Remember, he came into office after Nikki Haley was appointed UN ambassador under Trump 1. Trump endorsed late in the process Pam Avett. She's the lieutenant governor. And I think all assumptions were that she would make the runoff. She probably wouldn't clear 50. She got 29%. And then there was this car crash at the end, and everyone wondered who would make the runoff with her. She had Alan Wilson, the attorney general, multi-term. I think he's been 4 terms as attorney general. I may be off. I apologize if any of you are from South Carolina or no one's on it, but whatever. He's the son of Joe Wilson, the congressman. You remember him. You lie. Ralph Norman is another congressman. Nancy Mace, as you know, she is Nancy Mace, and she represents the 1st congressional district. That's in the Charleston area. She was running as well. And the reason I say this is there's a guy named Ram Reddy. There are a few other people, but he got 4th place ahead of Nancy Mace. And Alan Wilson cruised into 2nd place. I'm going to keep an eye on this race, guys. I know this is probably not the hottest race. To me, this is fascinating. As I said, Trump endorsed Pam Avett, the attorney general, lieutenant governor Alan Wilson, cruising into 2nd. I don't know that many people fully saw that, but Alan Wilson, as I said, elected statewide, so I think this was easy. Ralph Norman had supported Nikki Haley for a while. That didn't do too well, and then Nancy Mace is getting cross with the president. But it'll be interesting to see whether Pam Avett can hang on and win the primary there. So that was big. There were races in North Dakota and in Nevada as well. Joe Lombardo, the current governor there, faced a primary challenge, and I was actually intrigued to see the fact that how strong the base rallied around him, and they did. That was great. So if you're Lombardo, you got to feel pretty good about this. Anyway, that's my thing. And then obviously the other big thing out west, Spencer Pratt falling to 3rd place in LA. And I got to tell you, I could do an entire show on this. The the notion that this third place woman, the city councilwoman who's far left, surges into second. And by the way, there was a tax ballot. This is the other thing that I want to be clear on. There was a sales tax hike also on the ballot. And they're showing us now that all these people who supported this crazy leftist
Fraudulent
city councilwoman is also all the people who are voting for the higher sales tax. It doesn't matter. And by the way, then there's all these stories coming out about people getting paid to vote, homeless folks. I'm just telling you, there's something really wacky going on out there. And I'm going to try to break this out for you a little bit more because I got to tell you, the math doesn't add up. There are more people voting in LA and no one's paying enough attention. They're registering people to vote. They are casting ballots to the homeless population and saying that they got paid. Let me play you one quick clip of some of these folks. I got to play this for you. These are folks saying that they got paid to vote for Bass. $2, $5. Take a listen.
Fraudulent petitioners on Skid Row are now paying the homeless to forge names, forge addresses, and forge signatures of registered voters.
So do you want to sign? Okay. The first name.
I'm Joseph Albright. Okay.
The first name.
Joseph Albright. What are you using? Teresa.
No, I'm gonna give you your address to write.
Oh, okay.
Follow directions.
Okay, yeah.
Robert.
Quickly becoming a widespread scheme that can be found on almost every street corner in downtown Los Angeles.
All right, that's James O'Keefe from Project Veritas. These guys are talking about getting paid $2, $4, $5 to go out and cast votes, and every single one of them says Karen Bass. Anyway, I digress. Coming up next, we've got John Rogers from Signal Polling with some brand new data on where the electorate is heading into these key midterms. You're listening to Full Court Press. I'm your host, Sean Spicer, here on WABC. We'll be right back.
This is Full Court Press with Sean Spicer on 77 WABC.
The biggest stage in world soccer is days away, and every goal changes everything. And now FanDuel's giving you a reason to root for every single one. Introducing Every Goal Pays. Bet on a match and get bonus bets for every goal scored in that match. Oh, that's right. More goals means more bonus bets, and all you have to do is turn on your token. Visit FanDuel.com and get started now. Let there be goals on FanDuel.
21 plus select states for Kansas in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino. 18 plus DCKYWY. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 1-800-MY-RESET. 888-789-7777. Visit ccpg.org/chat. Connecticut. Visit mdgamblinghelp.org. Maryland. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org. Call 800-327-5050. Massachusetts. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY. Text HOPE-NY in New York. Call 877-770-7867. Louisiana.
Visit FanDuel.com. Get started now. Let there be goals this summer on FanDuel.
The Full Court Press is on the air. Now, here's Sean Spicer.
All right, welcome back to Full Court Press. I'm your host here, Sean Spicer on WABC. And as you are probably used to now, we're going to bring you some exclusive insights into the political environment. Our good friends at Signal Polling have been back in the field, getting the latest on where things stand as we head into these critical midterms. John Rogers at Signal Polling joins us. John, good Sunday morning. Thanks for being with us.
Sean, great to be with you as always.
All right. I always wonder when I talk to you guys if you're going to say everything's shifted. It's all great. But give me a sense of where we all talk about the generic ballot, a generic Republican versus a generic Democrat that gives us the lay of the land. Where does the generic ballot stand now, and how has it changed? Last month, the last couple months, which direction is it headed in?
Yeah, so the generic ballot is just when we ask people, if the election were held today, would you tend to vote for the Democratic candidate or Republican candidate for Congress? And it's the most basic fundamental question that you can ask in polling. And it's also incredibly predictive of where the environment is and where it's, potentially headed, right? And so the generic ballot right now is at D+5. So 49% of the electorate say that they plan to vote for the Democratic candidate for Congress. 44% say they plan to vote for the Republican candidate for Congress. And that's actually a shift in favor of Republicans month over month. So back in May, it was a D+7 generic ballot. And so it's actually shifted a little bit towards Republicans, going from D+7 to D+5 from May to June.
Okay. And what about like in the past? I mean, so is this just since May? Is this like what's the trend if you look back a couple months? Is it moving in our direction? Is that a blip?
Yeah, so if you look back to June of last year, right? If you look back to, you rewind the tape to a year ago, it was deadlocked, right? It was in June of last year, it was D47, Republican 47. And so looking back from June of 2025 till now, the environment has kind of slipped away from Republicans from June until now. And it's sort of been a slow slippage away from Republicans. There's a lot of different things that I think account for that. The higher gas prices that people have seen since the start of this calendar year certainly has had an impact. And I know we'll get to this in just a little bit later, Sean, but Republicans are starting to also lose the trust that voters had traditionally had with the GOP on inflation and on the economy and jobs. And so all of that has kind of added up to where it's an environment that favors Democrats more than Republicans right now. But it seems like what was a pretty significant advantage for Democrats the last couple of months, that it has started to kind of freeze or even come back to the Republicans from April and May until now.
One of the things that I think a lot of people look at who look at these polls is, are Republicans with Republicans? I mean, Trump always talks about how much the party is with him, and are Democrats with Democrats? Like, so are people suiting up in their uniform? What does that look like?
It's a great question. And so generally what you have here is both of the bases are pretty locked in, and you have about 10% of the electorate that are kind of in the middle. And you can look at that 10% of the electorate, and there's two ways to kind of look at it. 6% of the electorate are true swing voters. And so they're truly competitive. They're economically strained. They tend to trust Republicans more on crime, more on immigration, but they are leaning a little bit more towards trusting Democrats on the economy and jobs. So that's 6% of the electorate. And then the other 4% that make up the 10% in the middle, we're calling kind of the soft opposition to Republicans, right? So they tend to be lean a little bit more towards Democrats on the ballot, but they're skeptical of both parties, right? And so this is what I would say is this is a type of voter that Susan Collins can win and has historically won in Maine, for instance, right? They tend to be kind of in the center or maybe a little bit leaning toward the center left, but depending on the Republican candidate, they're going to be open to voting for the right type of Republican candidate. And if you look at Maine, for instance, that's a voter that Susan Collins has historically won.
So if you think about this, I mean, again, this is we'll have to understand, I think, and tell me if John Rogers, if I'm wrong in this assessment, but I feel like, generally speaking, I look at the numbers that I'm seeing in the Signal polling. 94% of Republicans are happy with where Republicans are, and 80, what is it? I'm just looking here. And Democrats are in a pretty close situation where basically these 6% though make the difference. This is where you win a close election, like in Maine, right? This is where winning that 6% is really what we're talking about.
Yeah, that's right. And so when you look at swing voters, that group in the middle, they're going to decide a lot of the battleground districts, whether you're thinking about in Maine or Ohio or Texas, kind of these North Carolina, these battleground states, they're very much focused on inflation and the economy. So 34% of them say that inflation and the economy is the top priority, the most important issue that they have. Another 14% say government spending and waste, right? And so nearly half of swing voters are saying something related to the economy. And I think that's where Republicans have historically held an edge with the electorate on economy and jobs and on inflation. It shifted a little bit away from the GOP the last couple of months, but I think that's recoverable, right? but it is something that Republican campaigns are going to have to repair in June and July and as leading into the fall.
So, two questions that I want to that I think are important are: do Republicans have a motivation problem with their base? In other words, when we talk about, again, I'm looking at the numbers here. It says the partisan lock, and this is in your deck, which is at Signal. The partisan lock is near total. Republicans back their candidates 94-4. Does that mean they're fired up though? Because I think when I talked to your colleague Brent Buchanan, part of the problem is that hardcore Republicans, the guys that you need to go out and cast a ballot in a midterm election, aren't as excited. Is that fair, or can we count on those? In other words, what I'm trying to get at, John Rogers, is the following. I think sometimes Republicans talk to themselves too much. They talk to people they are. It's like trying to sell something to someone who's already bought it. It's like, dude, you're good. So do we need to sell more to our own side, or do we need to be reaching out to those swing voters more?
It's a little bit of both, right? And so there are a lot of different data points that you can look at, both in terms of primaries that have already happened. And so, for instance, in North Carolina, the primary, there were 200,000 more people roughly who voted in the Democrat primary in North Carolina than Republicans who voted in the Republican primary in North Carolina. And so you have those data points, Sean, that you can look at where it says that when you look at the primary participation, and your mileage may vary on these, right? Because some states, there's a very pitched Democrat primary on one side, and maybe it's not on the Republican side. But North Carolina was a pretty good, primaries to look at for comparison. So you have those data points that you can look at. And then in our poll, in our national poll that we just came out with, you have a gap of 13 points between strongly Democratic voters and strongly Republican voters. They're saying that they're extremely motivated, right? So 69% of the GOP base say they're extremely motivated to vote in the November midterm election, compared to 82% of the Democratic base who say that they're extremely motivated to vote in the November midterm election. So it's a little bit of both. Republicans need to make sure that they message, especially to non-college voters. There's been some slippage there around the economy, and they need to make sure that they talk to those non-college voters and say, look, this is what's on the ballot, and draw a strong contrast with the Democrats too, and say, I know that things may be a little bit tough right now. I hear your pain kind of in Bill Clinton-esque terms, but this is what's going to happen if Democrats take control of the House. And this is what's going to happen if this particular Democrat is elected. And then they also, though, have to make a second complementary pitch to those swing voters and talk about affordability and talk about the kitchen table issues and the pocketbook issues that they care about.
It's interesting you brought that up. I've had members of Congress on my show weekly, and I'll ask a lot of them, give me your elevator speech. Give me the 60-second pitch why Republicans should maintain the majority. And I've got to tell you, John Rogers, most of them don't do well. And I think there's three messages that I think I'm intrigued to get your take on. One is what you said. Here's what Democrats will do, the warning, if you will, right? You got to understand these are bad people. This is what they will do. They will make your life more expensive. They will make us less safe, et cetera, et cetera. All they want to do is impeach Trump. Then there's the sort of like what I've done. Hey, we passed all this good stuff. No tax on tips, no tax on security. But then the most important, I think, is I always think that like what we forget is people are basically, you're asking to be hired again. What are you going to do for me in the future? And that's where I think Republicans are coming up short. They're not talking about what else I'll do for you. It's like, I did all this and they suck, and that's it.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. And I think that contrast with Democrats is also going to be really important. One of the things, Sean, that we found in the national poll that we just conducted was, so when you look at the president's net image, right, it's not great. Like the media has covered that a good bit. His net image is at -13. But when you compare his net image with different voter groups vis-a-vis the generic ballot, there are a lot of different voter groups out there who are open to voting for a Republican, even if they don't love the president, right? So you look at independent women. Republicans do 24 points better with independent women on the generic ballot than their view of the president would suggest, right? And so I think part of what Republicans have to understand is you can't get sucked into this like debate over the latest thing that maybe the president has posted on Truth Social. You just have to very forthrightly say, this is what we've done. This is what we're going to do on the economy and on jobs. And oh, by the way, we fixed this, this, and this on crime and immigration. And this is what the Democrat is going to do if they get in power. And I think Maine is a great state for kind of thinking about this, is that Susan Collins just has to say, this is what I've done. This is what I'm going to do. And this is what, the Democrat nominee, this is what he has said and done in his personal life. And then this is also the chaos that is going to be unleashed if his policies were put forward at a national level.
The thing that's so interesting to me is that Republicans actually have a really good list of accomplishments. Some of it Trump did on his own, right? But I mean, my point is that you've cut taxes, you've secured the border, and there are things that upset me, like these Trump accounts, that I don't think we're talking about enough. I think that, like, when you talk about the next generation of Americans, and so many parents are worried about how their kids are going to do, the Trump account to me are amazing. And then you've got what the president has done on Trump RX to cut the price of prescription drugs and make so many critical drugs more affordable. I don't get the sense that Republicans are I've heard, like, I'll give you my example, John Rogers. If you guys went out and polled Trump accounts, I bet you people would say, I don't even know what you're talking about. Because I've only heard Scott Bessent talk about them twice, one at the rollout event and then once at the White House briefing that he held. And so tell me if I'm wrong. I feel like some of this is the tools are in the tool bag. They just haven't even looked in the bag yet.
Right. And I think that's why you start to see, so we ask a battery of which party do you trust more on key issues, right? So economy and jobs, cost of living, immigration, crime, cutting wasteful spending, and foreign affairs, those 6 issues, right? And so for the first time that we've really found, Democrats are now more trusted than Republicans on economy and jobs. So The electorate as a total, it's a D+2 advantage on trust towards Democrats on the economy and jobs.
Have you ever seen that before? I've never heard Democrats leading on the economy and jobs. I mean, to be honest with you, that scares me that anyone thinks they're a Democrat, considering if you hear of a Democrat right now, you're hearing about like Mondami and Sanders and AOC doing crazy, wacko socialist stuff. I guess from a polling standpoint, didn't that jump out at you guys as like, well, we have a problem, Houston?
Yeah, for sure. And it's more on cost of living than it is on jobs, especially when you look at swing voters, right? So when you look, Sean, at Trusted Party on economy and jobs, Republicans among swing voters still have an R+5 advantage on which party is going to do a better job on the economy and creating jobs, right? But when you look at cost of living, the R+5 advantage becomes a D+6 deficit, right, among swing voters. And so swing voters trust Democrats more, D+4, 36 to 32, right? And so economy and jobs, I think that there's sort of an environmental advantage that Republicans have on that will kind of come back our way a little bit. But I think the cost of living and inflation is the tougher nut to crack. Part of it's because of the gasoline prices. And then also I think because of some of the things you said, where there's been some things that the administration has done directly and then also in working with Congress. But I just think that it's kind of gotten lost a little bit in the froth of a midterm election year thus far.
Is there any erosion in key groups, women, Hispanics, blacks, anything that we had done well with in the 24 election that we've seen discernible erosion with?
Yeah, that's a great question. And so let me rewind the clock a year back, right, to kind of give some perspective here. So if you went back and looked at our June of 2025 poll, Hispanics were D+9 in a year ago. They're now D+18, right? So we have a 9-point loss or erosion year over year with Hispanic voters. Now, some of this was, we did much better with Hispanics in 2020 and then especially 2024 than we had done in previous presidential cycles. And then especially if you looked at the Rio Grande Valley and Starr County and some of those counties in South Texas, there were just massive shifts especially from 2016 all the way through 2024 towards Trump and the Republican Party. But, we, and I think you and a lot of other people, well, actually not a lot of other people, I think it was kind of a minority of Republican folks kind of warned that those people, some of those Hispanic voters were not necessarily committed Republicans.
No.
It was just that they preferred Trump over Kamala Harris and Trump over Joe Biden in 2020 and 2024. And so Hispanics have shifted away from us by 9 points on the generic ballot. Non-college voters have also shifted away from us. With non-college women, they've gone from D+2 to D+8, so 6-point drop from a year ago. And then non-college men, we're still doing really well with non-college men. That's kind of the base of the party in a lot of ways. But they've gone from R+24 to R+17, so a 7-point drop. And a lot of that is driven by this loss of trust in the Republican Party's addressing of inflation in the economy. So, with non-college women, they have dropped by 19 points. If you go back to looking at September, they have dropped by 19 points in their trust of the Republican Party on cost of living. Non-college men have dropped by 12 points, and the Hispanics have dropped by 13 points on cost of living, right? So that really is kind of the main driver of when you see deterioration for Republicans in the generic ballot. A lot of it is traced back to this cost of living and inflation issue.
All right, well then let's get to the final issue that I want to address with you today. The Iran war and the gas price drag. Like how important is this to the prospects of Republicans this November?
Yeah, so we asked a question on this where we kind of framed up and we said the United States and Iran have agreed to a 60-day deal to pause the war and reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Do you support or oppose President Trump finalizing a deal to pause and eventually end the war with Iran, right? And there was really strong support kind of across the board. 74% of the electorate said that they supported the President Trump finalizing the deal and eventually ending the war with Iran, right? But what was really interesting was when you asked, we delved a little bit deeper into it, and we said since the war has begun, gas prices have risen, and then we asked people, do they feel like that the higher gas prices are a short-term cost of a necessary military operation? Do they think the war may be justified, but the administration should do more to lower energy costs? Or do they think that the economic impact of the war on families is just too high to justify it? And there's a majority of voters overall, and then also a majority of swing voters who say, so you have half of voters who say that the economic impact of the war is too high to justify it. And then you have an additional 16% who say that the war may be justified, but the administration should do more to lower costs. And so you've got about 2/3 of that's where the electorate is. They're saying either the war just isn't enough to justify this, or that we've got to do more to lower energy costs, right? And then another way that we kind of try to frame this up was we said, we kind of asked the generic ballot again, but with this caveat, we said, if the war with Iran is still ongoing and gas prices remain elevated in November, how would you vote in the election for Congress? And that D+5 generic ballot goes to a D+7 generic ballot, right? So if we're still engaged in Iran and if gas prices remain elevated, it's going to be something that will hurt us. And there's a couple of groups that it will hurt in particular with. But so it is something that people are concerned about. I know members of Congress and have their positions on it kind of staked out, but it is something that is affecting the electorate.
Okay. John Rogers, where can they go to find all of this polling that you guys do at Signal?
Go to cygn.al, and then you can also follow me on X or Twitter, John Rogers with Signal, and you should be able to get everything you need there.
Awesome. I appreciate it. We'll check back in with you when you've got some more information. I always appreciate you sharing it with here. Guys, stick around. Some interesting week for the media. We'll break it all down. Plus, President Trump wants another reconciliation bill. You're listening to Full Court Press. I'm your host, Sean Spicer, here on WABC. We'll be right back.
This is Full Court Press with Sean Spicer on 77 WABC. Welcome to your personal briefing. The Full Court Press is on the air. Now, here's Sean Spicer.
Welcome back. You're listening to Full Court Press. I'm your host, Sean Spicer, here on WABC. I got to tell you, that conversation with John Rogers, if you're a political work guru, whatever you want to, I love these things where you get inside the numbers, because too many times I see on news shows and even podcasts to some degree, people who are just like pontificating, which is fine. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. But so many times it's not rooted in fact or data. And it's just like, I think, and there's a lot of things I think. But when you start to look at the data and get access to it, like that's what's going to matter. Because sometimes we live in a bubble. We talk to people who are just like us, who think like us, who believe, hopefully in the common sense kind of things that we all share. And you don't get exposed to the people who are nut jobs, and nut jobs vote. That's what I think is important. And I think the point about the end, about this war in Iran, and I know the president's trying to get the Strait open and wants to end it, but this is the key. If the war is over and gas prices are dropping, Republicans win. It's that simple to me. That simple. If they're going in the other direction, if we are sitting here in October having a conversation about Iran and gas prices, I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news. It's not going to end well. It's just not. And I think that we need to understand that. I get the president, as you can tell, is making very clear that he wants to get this war over. He wants to get oil flowing. I was walking down the street the other day. I try to get coffee in the morning. And when I first, about 2 weeks ago, I think gas was about $4.33 a gallon. Just Friday, maybe Saturday, it was $3.99. So it's going in the right direction. But I got to tell you, the other little ticking time bomb that no one's talking about, because again, most people aren't really that dialed in on the actual issues. The oil companies, the energy companies are sounding the alarm that the reserves that they have are starting to get low. And once that happens, this is what's been floating the cost of oil so far is, we've been able to keep things moving in the right direction. But we're going to have a problem if that happens. I want to get ahead of this so you guys understand. But if we are in August and September moving in the right direction with gas prices, because gas prices are key to not just what we pay in our budgets, but the cost of everything. If they go down, then transportation goes down. If transportation goes down, then those bananas and bread and milk that have to be transported, it costs less to bake into that total cost. So just keep an eye on that. Goes down, do well. If it's up, enough people are just going to get frustrated. They may not vote. They may not vote Democrat. That's the thing. Remember, there's 3 things you can do. You vote for the Republican, you vote for the Democrat, or you don't vote. And frankly, I think that's the key to Maine. It's not a question of getting everyone to vote for Susan Collins. Just getting them Democrats not to vote for Graham Platter and saying, I can't, in good conscience, look at myself in the mirror and vote for this guy. I get it. I'd have a hard time voting for Graham Platter, even if I was the most hardcore Bernie bro. Seriously, think about this. Guys, it's crazy. But on a separate note, it was a very interesting week on Capitol Hill. The 2 big hearings that were fascinating. The first was the Southern Poverty Law Center, the president, his last name's Fair, Brian Fair. He goes up to Capitol Hill, and it was epic. So there's all these questions about, and remember, just to give you a background, the Southern Poverty Law Center believes that they are the decider in chief when it comes to what is good and bad, what is racist, what is inappropriate. And they literally labeled Charlie Kirk and Turning Point USA a racist organization. They and somehow they believe that somehow they I don't know why. I do. Let's be honest. I do know the media has yielded that so they can say, oh, this group labeled, never telling you that it's just a bunch of leftists. But they've been accused, so they got yanked up to Capitol Hill this week to answer allegations that they spent $4.1 million in donor money to fund extremist groups like the KKK. So you heard me. They used $4.1 million of donor money to fund extremist groups like the KKK. They apparently used the money to attend and host extremist group rallies across the country, to grow existing chapters of extremist group, to create new chapters of extremist groups, to recruit individuals into those extremist groups, to make donations to those groups, to purchase materials for cross burnings, to purchase materials to make Ku Klux Klan robes and hoodies, the white hoods, to create racist paraphernalia. So in case you're scratching your head saying, what the heck are you talking about? Let me be clear. This is lighting the fire so you can put it out. So in other words, they want more racism so they can say, see, we put out racism. So they take their donor money, which they have raised by saying, we fight racism. We go out there and identify these people that are racist, and then we fight them. Well, apparently racism might be on the decline. Wasn't enough racism. So what did they have to do? They had to go make it up. They had to fund. They took the money that they were getting from their donors and then literally spent it on groups like the KKK. So then they would have a reason to go back to the same donors and say, see, look at what these people are doing with the money that you gave us to give to them. I mean, this takes a lot of chutzpah. I mean, I got to be honest with you. It's quasi-brilliant and it's also disgusting and abhorrent at the same time. And one of the best questioners that I've ever seen on Capitol Hill is Congressman Brandon Gill of Texas. So what makes him so good is most of these members love, and you guys have all seen this, you get up, you watch these members of Congress, and instead of asking a question, they give a speech. Blah, 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 and I think this and I think that, and then the witness just says, okay, thanks. Like it's all about them. There are few members, though, that get the job. And the job to me is, how do you ask a good question that's going to get you a good answer? And Brandon Gill of Texas is one of those members. So he's pressing the interim president of the Southern Poverty Law Center, Brian Fair, on Graham Plattner and the Nazi tattoo, because, of course, these guys should be anti-Nazi, right? They're the Southern Poverty Law Center. So here is Brandon Gill of Texas going after the president of the Southern Poverty Law Center about Graham Plattner and his tattoo. Take a listen.
Do you have an opinion on this tattoo?
I'm not an expert on tattoos. No, I don't.
Okay. I can give you a little bit of background. This is a tattoo on Maine Democrat Senate candidate Graham Plattner's chest. That's the Nazi SS death head tattoo. Do you have any opinions on that?
If it's what you say, if it's a Nazi symbol, we oppose Nazis.
We oppose, I agree, we do oppose Nazis. Do you think if somebody got a Nazi tattoo on their chest, that's indicative that they might be a Nazi?
You'd have to ask Mr. Plattner why he has that symbol. I've already said that if it is a symbol of Nazism, we oppose Nazis.
You don't think that that's indicative that perhaps he holds Nazi sentiments?
It may well be.
It may well be. I think, do people who aren't Nazis normally get Nazi tattoos on their chest?
Again, I assume they don't.
You assume they don't? I would assume so, too. I don't know anybody who's not a Nazi. I don't know anybody who has a Nazi tattoo on their chest but is not a Nazi. Do you?
No.
Do you think that somebody who has a Nazi tattoo on their chest should serve in the United States Senate?
I wouldn't vote for that person.
I certainly wouldn't either. Do you think that this should disqualify him politically from serving in the Senate?
Again, I'm not sure where the line of questions is going. The SPLC, if you're asking me, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
If you're asking me if the SPLC opposes Nazis and Nazi symbols, the answer is yes.
Yep. The SPLC is referred to this same tattoo as a racist skinhead symbol and tattoo. You can see the resemblance there. You wouldn't want somebody with a tattoo like that in the Senate? No, I wouldn't either. I appreciate your candor there.
Okay, two things about that. Number one, I will give Mr. Fair, the president of the Southern Poverty Law Center, a little credit. Wow, Sean, you're giving him credit? I am giving him credit. Because if he, like a lot of these weasels on the left, they could have said, I have no comment, and the voters of Maine will decide. But he realized that he's in a trap because Brendan Gillen, you saw that at the end, had the tattoo on their website saying it was a Nazi symbol. So it would have been hard. Maybe Mr. Fair knew that he knew that he couldn't weasel out of it because on his own website, they listed that symbol as a symbol of hate. So it'd be hard to say, I don't know about it because you guys have it on your own website. So that was good. And I give him credit because most of the Democrats, you guys have seen this, he's redeemed himself. I mean, again, he's a phony. No, he hasn't redeemed himself. He only did it when he got caught. Graham Plattner's had that tattoo for 18 years. He runs around with his shirt off all the time, courtesy of these silly videos that we see. You don't think anyone said to him, and there's stories now that the women that he dated, he would tell them that he had a little nickname for it, calling his little totem cough. He knew it was racist. It's a lie because he's a phony. President Trump was right in that clip that we played a little while ago. So I give Mr. Fair at least a little bit of credit for being more forthright than most of these Democrats. But like I said, the other thing is that Brandon Gill actually knows how to ask a question. He didn't pontificate. He didn't give a speech. He literally just said, yes, no, do you agree with this? Do you not agree with this? That's how you do it. More Republicans should take a look at how he's doing it. Elise Stefanik, remember the whole education thing? She did it well. I'm just telling you, like, this is why, like, sometimes just stop making it about you. These guys, they all want to make the hearing about them as opposed to let the witness hang themselves. Go out there, say something, give them an easy, it's not an easy question, it's a simple question. That's how you do it. And I'm just telling you, too many of these guys want to make everything about them and not about actually moving the ball forward and advancing it. That's my take on all of this. And anyway, it was also one other quick note before I leave, because I just want to be clear on this. All these little whiny babies at CBS are like, I talked about Scott Pelley, and they all want to be like, oh, this is all about me and blah, 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 and despite whatever. Bari Weiss, who is the woman that is leading the charge at CBS on behalf of the new owners at Paramount, the Ellisons, is apparently going to be the lead person at CNN. And I'm just so happy about that. I am super, super happy that Bari Weiss is going to go in and hopefully get rid of the dead weight at CNN, because it's not just the leftists who are there. It's also a lot of these expensive people who are dead weight. Anyway, thank you guys for being with us. Remember, you can always catch me daily in the morning at 8:30 on The Huddle on my YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube and search for Sean Spicer, subscribe to the channel, and every night at 6 p.m., I've got a great show, The Sean Spicer Show. It premieres every night at 6 p.m. Thanks for being with us and kicking off your Sunday. This has been Full Court Press. I'm your host, Sean Spicer. See you next week.